Hey, it's Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and it's Monday. It's February 27th. This will be our chart listen for the day, and I'm close to being back to normal again. My voice is recovered. I've got a horrible head cold though, so I'm still not 100%, but at least I can talk now without any problems. And this was a really weak range day. The entire range was maybe 2362 to 2370. So maybe 8 points. So there's just not much happening here. There's a few good trades, but even the one I thought would take off right in here, we struggled to get to the upper side of the range. So just not much happening today. But I'll go through the trades. Probably going to be relatively quick today, and we'll wrap the day up. But let me back out just a little bit here, make it a little easier to see. When I came in, we were working down. We'd been working down since early in the overnight. You can see we're coming down. We get a break here, and generally you got a break here, and you tried twice to go higher. Well, that's your trap you want. You're probably going to go lower and make a new low. So I like going short. This is a no-brainer, really. Hopefully everybody saw this one. If you didn't see this one, study this, because this is what you've got your trend working down. You get your first close outside, and you're just looking for a chance to go low, to get short with it again. And notice we got your trend working up. You get your close outside. You try to go higher twice, and you get a lower high each time. And look how bearish that is. That's the perfect setup to go lower. Then, of course, we bounce. You don't really get a good setup here for a bounce. You really want to wait on a higher low, which comes here. And then you've already got a close outside your trend line. So I'm a little bit leery of that one. I think you're better off to see what happens, and then you get a double bottom here, and this looks more like a reversal pattern now. Although you could probably argue for that one. I'll make it green just for the heck of it, because you figure we're probably going to the high side now, at least back to the midline, and so this one's arguable. This is probably the better one, and I really thought we would go on through and head to the upper side, but this just shows you what happens. I mean, sometimes you get hung in the lower half, and it's possible we could have even made a lower high here and gone lower and made another measured move down, but that doesn't happen. And really, I was looking for another chance to get short here, and we just never could get a setup. There's a little higher low right there, but that signal bar is not very good. And the odds are we're probably going to try to go higher, but it comes down and makes that low here, and you get another test. I like going long here off this low. Notice that you've got all these matching lows, and so you could kind of treat this like a failed. Let me put the line on here just to make it a little easier to see. You could treat this like a failed break lower. Plus, it's just a test of these lows again one more time to make sure, and it's a higher low than this one. And that's a fairly bullish bar. Your stop still has to go below the big red one. And this is probably one of the better moves of the day. You got maybe a 3 or 4 point move here. Notice the little trend working up, then you get a close outside, and you get two legs up to a new high. I desperately wanted to go short there, but generally you want to wait on a lower high. You get a lower high here, and it turns out to be a doji. I mean, you're basically closing in the middle. So, and you don't want to be going short right into that. So then you get your what looks like a reversal pattern. But this bar is so big, and it's still right into these lows. You pushed through it, and you pulled back, and you closed below it. But I still think it's risky. So I only made it green. I would have liked to seen it if it looked more like this one on this bar, I would have made it red. But notice how we're going sideways again here. You do get the little break higher here, and you're still closing inside the trend line. You're closing inside the midline of the range. And that's a fairly bearish bar, but it's right into the low there. And so there's always a chance it could break lower and fail, which it does. This one had enough to work, but notice what happens. It breaks through and fails and turns up, and so you can get burned on that. And then you get what looks a lot like a reversal pattern here, but notice how you're just going sideways, and these bars have got stems on each side, and you got to go long right into that. So you're better off to wait, and it actually pushes through and pulls back and confirms that trend line and bounces over. And that's a really bullish bar right there. So if you waited till here, I was okay with it. And then you got another pullback right here, and you got a second entry long. And even though your stop has to go below this bar, it's really the break above this one. And I did want to back up here and talk about something else, but that got us into our 2 o'clock hour, and I didn't see anything else. There's actually a reversal pattern here, but it's right into those highs. It would have worked, but we weren't back to the trend line either, so that was another reason I was a little bit leery of it. And notice what happens. We broke a little bit above up here, and then we're trending down again back to the midline. But one thing I want to talk about, I get this a lot. I'll get people that ask me why a second entry failed, and let me see if I can find a good example of one. It's not really one good one on this chart at all. Let me go see if I can find one from another day. Let's just use this one for an example. You got a new high here, and you pull back, you get a first entry. You pull back, you get a second entry. So yeah, there's a second entry right here. But what people will do is they'll end up entering way up here above one of these other bars. When the trigger is down here, the trigger is here, so the only acceptable entry is one tick above the signal bar. So you can't be entering way up here. And people end up entering like one tick above this bar, thinking that it was a second entry, and they're right, but you've missed all the move, and you probably would have got, and you may get stopped out. So I see that quite often. So make sure you understand that you cannot enter one tick early or one tick late on this strategy. If you enter late, you're going to get burned. And because that's why we only go for 4 ticks, because a lot of these moves will only get enough to scalp out with 4 ticks. Anything more, and you're probably going to get burned. So keep that in mind. But I seem to get that question a lot. And so just remember, if this is your second, notice that new high, you're pulling back first entry, pull back second entry. So if your entry is right here, that's the only place that you can enter. If you can't wait to enter way up here, if you missed it for some reason, you could drop a limit order in there where it would have been and see if it'll come back and get you, and it would have probably come back and filled you right here, and then you could have gone higher. But even that can be risky if you don't really understand price action well, because that might be the move is over and things are changing. So just remember that you can't enter a tick late or even a tick early. Because if you try to sneak in here before it breaks above on a second entry, you may not get a second entry, and you get trapped in the trade, and it continues to go lower. So like right here, notice we're coming down. Well, that's not one. Let me see if I can find an example of what I mean there. I can't ever find these examples when I want to find them. This one actually broke higher, but just assuming that you're coming down, you get your first entry, you pull back and assume you try to sneak in here expecting a second entry, and you don't wait for this bar to close and you enter, and it just continues to go lower, and then you got trapped in, and there never was even a second entry. So that's the danger of entering early, that you might get fooled, because a lot of times you will see bars that look like this that probably were trading up at one time and trying to go higher, and then all of a sudden at the last minute they sell off real big. And look how it looks here, where probably at one time when it was trying to break above, it looked fairly bullish, and you're thinking that it may go higher. So just keep that in mind. And that's really about it for today. It just wasn't a very good trading day. There's maybe 1, 2, 3, 4 solid trades, and the rest there's about 3 or 4 green ones, and there's just not much happening today. You got to be careful entering around the midlines. The best entries are off the lows and the lows of the range and the high, and we just didn't get any. I mean, by the time we got back up here, it's too late, and we only had a couple of bounces down here low, and so everything else is around this midline, and those are the ones you can't trust really well. So just wasn't a good trading day. Just wasn't much movement today. The whole entire range is like 8 points, so it's not a good day. But anyway, I'm going to wrap it up. We'll be back again to do it tomorrow. This is Mack with PriceActionTradingSystem.com, and we'll see you next time.